Hey there, Movie Master here with a video response for the 13th Wolfman's video about the top 5 films he wants to see on DVD or Blu-ray. The movies that I want to see on DVD and Blu-ray, these are movies that, these are horror gems that I love, movies that I would love to see in any format, whether DVD or Blu-ray. But the movies that I want to see on Blu-ray are DVDs that have been discontinued, out of print, or they have never been remastered the way they should have been remastered. And the movies that I want to see on DVD, these are movies that have never been made available in any other format except VHS or Laserdisc. So let's start. The first movie is a videotape that I've had not too long. I wish I had this tape a long time ago. I recently found it online and I paid a little bit too much for it. I think it's really overpriced for a VHS tape. And that movie is Nightmare on the 13th Floor. This is a Canadian horror film, and it's about this reporter who comes to this hotel where weird murders are taking place, and they're taking place on the 13th floor. The thing is, there is no 13th floor. There's a 12th and 11th floor, but there is no 13th floor, and no one seems to believe her. The movie isn't exactly gory or anything like that, but it's effective. I thought it was a great film. It proves that you can make a horror film without having gore or violence. You know, it can be effective. So this movie is only available on VHS. It has been made available on DVD through conventions, and it's a VHS rip. So I wish that this movie gets a correct treatment and eventually gets remastered on DVD. And I have hopes because this is released through Paramount. And Paramount has released in the past some horror films from other older catalogs on DVD. So you never know. The second movie, this movie is available on DVD, but it has been discontinued for the longest, and it goes for $159 and sometimes $60, but I'm not going to pay $60 for a DVD. And that movie is John Carpenter's Body Bags. I have the tape. I'm going to be keeping the tape until they re-release it. From what I've heard, that DVD that was released through Artisan Entertainment. This one's Republic Pictures. But DVD, I think it's Artisan Entertainment. It wasn't really remastered. It was released in the full screen format. So I'm not going to pay $69 for a DVD that looks standard, no different from my VHS tape. So this is a great John Carpenter movie. It's very underrated. Some people, you know, kind of dismiss this movie. They don't really remember this one. They usually remember Halloween, The Thing, They Live, but they don't really remember Body Bags. And this is a great horror movie. And I hope this gets released eventually on DVD or Blu-ray again. So the next one, this one, I don't think anybody knows about this movie. I found about this movie through accident. I found it in a flea market, and the cover called my attention, and I eventually have seen it several times since I bought it. This movie is called Night Vision. It's a movie released through Prism Entertainment, and it's about this young kid who is an aspiring writer. He comes down from Kansas to New York, and he hopes the city will change him. He hopes the city will inspire him to write, you know, cool stories. And he meets this guy who looks like a really bad Joe Pesci wannabe, and he gives him a VCR. He gives him a VCR as a token of gratitude for saving his life. There's a scene where the young kid saves his life from these gangsters, and it's kind of contradictory because the kid acts really like innocent. He doesn't know how to defend himself, and then all of a sudden there's a scene where he defends this other guy who you think is a little bit more streetwise. The movie isn't exactly it's original, but it is really cheesy. It is really corny, but I do like it for that reason. This movie as well, it's a horror film, but it's not violent at all. It's not even rated. There's no violence at all in this movie. It's really, I think anybody can watch this movie. But it does have that adult theme. This movie was directed by this guy, I think his name is Michael Kruger. He directed another movie that I also have on my list that I also wish eventually gets released on DVD. So this movie, this tape is 20 plus years old. It's getting degraded. It's been exposed to heat, so it doesn't have good picture quality. I might make, I will make a copy of it on DVD plus art just as a backup, because if I lose the tape, I don't know where else I'll find it. So it's a good movie. But to conclude the story, he gets the VCR, and the VCR possesses him, and makes him write these weird stories. And the stories that he writes end up becoming true. Like, he writes stories about this guy getting killed, and the guy gets killed in that same fashion. So it's a cool movie, and it's very unknown. So I recommend it, and hopefully it gets released on DVD. The other movie is also directed by Michael Kruger, and it has some of the actors of Night Vision in it. And the movie's called Mind Killer. Now, this movie has some really neat effects. Again, this is a really unknown horror movie, and it's about this guy who can't get dates. You know, he's never had a girlfriend, so he starts reading this book in the library. It's not really a book, it's like a volume of pages that were left in the library from this researcher. And it gives him techniques on how to hypnotize women and convince them that he's good looking and whatever. The movie's really cheesy and corny, but the guy, he eventually becomes psychic, and the more psychic he becomes, the more weird in the form he becomes. Why? I don't know. They just made it that way. It's really funny, it's really corny, but I like it. It's a forgotten 80s movie. I don't think anybody knows about it, and it's also released through Prism Entertainment. This one I didn't find in the flea market. I found it online, and I found it because I was trying to find more movies directed by Michael Kruger, and I found this one. From what I've heard, Michael Kruger passed away, so the rights to the film has been lost, and there's a whole bunch of issues going on, so that's one reason why you might not be seeing this movie on DVD. But I'm keeping my hopes up high. You never know, maybe it'll get released one day on DVD. And the last movie that I would love to see on DVD, this is, some people might know about this movie. It's a forgotten slasher movie. I don't think many people know about it. Those who are into slasher movies and horror movies might know about it. And that movie is Edge of the Axe. This movie, it's a Spanish horror film, a Spanish horror production, and it's about these teenagers, you know, they're in a small town where nothing really happens, everything's really quiet, and all of a sudden, you know, some murderer, some psychopath starts killing people. What makes this film different from the typical slasher is just the gruesome murders. They're very graphic, and they're very to the point. That's what I liked about it. Aside that, the movie's pretty predictable. You can guess who the murderer is. It's not really that special, but the way the murders happen are pretty neat. You know, they're not really intricate or, you know, unique. They're just very, like, gruesome, in my opinion. So this movie, it's definitely one that I would love to see on DVD. Hopefully one day it gets released. So yeah, Edge of the Axe. Now, the movies that I want to see on Blu-ray, these we might get to see them on Blu-ray, because, you know, they don't have any licensing issues. They don't have any issues that, you know, impede from ever seeing them on the light of day on Blu-ray. The first movie is David Cronenberg's The Brood. Now, this is one of my favorite horror movies. I love this movie. If you haven't seen it, it's really worth watching. It's really worth owning, as a matter of fact. And I really can't describe this movie in a sentence. It has to be seen to be understand. But I will tell you this: it's really effective, and the last 10 minutes of the movie are really, really intense. I think David Cronenberg is one of the most talented directors, and he's also very, like, he's weird, but he makes these crafty movies, and he has really neat effects, and his storyline is usually very, very original. He can take a plot that has been used before, and he'll make it fresh and new. So this movie is only available on DVD. It's in widescreen. It looks decent, but I would like a better treatment of this movie. So that one, The Brood. The other movie that I would love to see on Blu-ray, this one I just recently bought on DVD. I didn't even know it was available on DVD, but I would like to see it on Blu-ray one day, and that movie is Invaders from Mars. I remember seeing this movie as a kid, and it scared the bejesus out of me. And now, you know, I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen clips online, and I haven't seen any clips of it since I was a kid. And, you know, it's pretty, I don't want to say lame, but it's not scary at all. I still consider it a very good movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's about this kid who he's convinced that the townspeople are being invaded, you know, by aliens. You know, their bodies have been snatched, kind of like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, kind of. but in this one you can actually identify the aliens through the back. There's something in their back that identifies them as aliens. The first time I had this movie was on VHS through a Good Times tape, and it was recorded in SLP mode, so the quality wasn't really good. So I finally got it on DVD. I haven't opened it yet, but I would like to see it one day on Blu-ray remastered, because I'm looking at it here, and even though it says brand new digital transfer, I read some reviews and they were telling me it's not exactly that remastered. So the next one, you mentioned this movie, and I also wish this movie gets a good treatment, and that's Return of the Living Dead 3. Return of the Living Dead 1 was a great satirical horror comedy that was pretty much, I don't want to say spoofing, but it was kind of like tipping their hat to Night of the Living Dead, the George A. Romero movie. And Return of the Living Dead 2 was decent, but Part 3 I think is, I don't want to say is the best, but it is really up there. I consider this an independent film, like a departure from the Return of the Living Dead, the first two Return of the Living Dead films. And in this one, what I really liked is the effects, the grittiness, the way it's so gothic. It felt really, you know, real. I liked it. So it's only available through Lionsgate Entertainment. I don't know if it's out of print. I think you can still find this movie, but the widescreen transfer of this movie, it's kind of like, it isn't too great. I wish that they could do a good remastering of this movie. The last two, this one is another John Carpenter movie. This one I think it's out of print. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this movie is In the Mouth of Madness. This is a great John Carpenter movie, and it's about this writer who goes missing, and Sam Neill is contracted to find the missing writer, and along the way, weird things start to happen. And there's a book that everyone's anticipating called In the Mouth of Madness, hence the title of the movie. Everyone wants to read the book, but it hasn't been released yet, because the writer's missing. So Sam Neill's character has to find them. He goes through weird measures. He's accompanied by this assistant, this female assistant, and she also starts seeing weird things. It's a really bizarre movie. John Carpenter has a cameo in the movie, and I hope this movie one day sees the light in Blu-ray. The DVD looks alright, but I would like to see it in a high-def transfer. And the last movie, this movie, I really, really want to see it in a good transfer. I can't believe this movie has never been remastered well. And not just that, they're overcharging the hell out of people for the copy of this movie. The last time I checked, it was like $100-something just for a copy of this movie. And it's Fright Night Part 2. Fright Night Part 2, I got this copy years ago. I haven't got rid of it since. I was going to, good thing I didn't, because it's the only way you can watch this movie now. It's not widescreen, it's full screen, and this movie was shot on a 239 frame, like it's the thick widescreen. So what they did was they cropped the film and they zoomed in the lens. So when you're watching it on plasma screen, you have to zoom out even more. So you're missing a lot of what's going on, and it looks really pixelated. This movie is great. I mean, it's a worthy sequel. It's one of those horror sequels that it doesn't surpass the original, but it is a good sequel. It continues right after the first one, and it's a good horror movie. It's a great horror comedy, and it's a shame that this movie has never been available on not just on Blu-ray, but at least a good, decent DVD. So if you do see it online, I wouldn't pay the price they're asking for. It's a lot. That's way too much. But anyway, those are the 10 movies, 5 for DVD and 5 for Blu-ray, that I would love to see released, remastered in a better format. So that's that, and I hope you enjoyed. Take care.